Yo, what's up you guys? Welcome back to another very exciting video tutorial. This is Ben, and in this video tutorial you're going to learn about UI pinch gesture recognizers, you're going to learn about UI rotation gesture recognizers, and UI pen gesture recognizer. Okay, so on the way you're going to build this simple application. First you can drag this around using UI pen gesture recognizers. You can scale this by using UI pinch gesture recognizers, which I'm going to demonstrate now. And you can also rotate, but it's quite hard to actually rotate. I'm trying my best to showing you guys that we can rotate, and there you have it. You can also rotate. So I hope you're as excited as I am. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm going to open up Xcode beta, and then I'm going to create a new Xcode project. Make this a single view application, and I'm going to call this gestures. Yeah, gestures is good. Make sure language is Swift and device is iPhone, and you're good to go. In this case, I'm going to save it in my desktop. Okay, so in this tutorial, we're not going to touch the main.storyboard at all. We are going to do our constraints, our organizing of the layout in code. It may be a little bit intimidating, but fear not, it's actually really simple. Okay, so first, we need to grab an image view. So I'm going to head into Safari, and I'm going to search for random vector. And I'm going to head into the Google Images, and I'm going to click on this search tools, usage rights, labeled for reuse with modification, so that I can reuse it without any copyright claims. Okay, this paw looks good. So I'm going to view the image, and I'm going to save the image to downloads. Now, click on the assets folder, click the finder, and as you can see, you should have already downloaded this. Then drag this into your assets folder. So now that you have assets, just change the name by pressing the return key and changing the name to Paul. So in the view controller, first you want to start with first you want to just type image view, okay, and make this of type UI image view. Then what we're going to do in the view.look method is to write self.imageView equals to UI image view with two parentheses. So what this does is that it creates an instance of the UI image view. Now we're going to set the image for the image view by heading to self.imageview.image equal to UI image and name Paul, which in this case the assets has Paul over here. But to make this simpler, Xcode 8 has introduced a new feature where you don't have to actually use Paul. You can just type in Paul, boom. There you have it. So as you can see, it's really simple, and it makes things life a little bit easier and more fun. Okay, so the next thing that we have to write is self.imageview.user interaction. Is user interaction enabled? Because we want the user to be able to drag this around using gesture recognizers. So we need to set this to true. Next, we're going to head into self.imageview. Let's see. We need to set the translate auto resizing mask into constraint so that when we add our constraints in code, it doesn't really affect. So we're going to set this to false. And last but not least, so what I want to do now is to head into self.view.add subview, add that image view. So now we are adding this image view that we have configured into our main view. So let's change to our iPhone 6s and run it and see how it looks. So as you can see, it's really big, doesn't really fit our screen, and that's why we have to add constraints to actually constrain this image to a set of guidelines that we will specify later. Now we'll specify the constraints now. So what we're going to do is to add a comment and mark constraint. So this is where all our constraints code will come in. And if we click on this, as you can see, we have constraints. So first, I want to say let the width constraint equals to ns layout constraint. And as you can see, you have this really long code. So I'm going to close this side pane over here by clicking on the button over here. And now we have a little bit more space. So the item would be the self.image view, since the auto layout would affect this image view. And the attribute, the type of constraint that we want to add to the self.image view, is that we want to add the width, because we want it to have a fixed width. Want it related by dot equal to item. We don't want to be equal to any item, nil. And the attribute would be not an attribute, because we have already specified an attribute over here, and we don't need another attribute. The multiplier will be 1.0, constant will be 100. So what this line of code does is that it adds a constraint, a width constraint, and keeps the constraint equal to 100 regardless of the screen size. So let's do now for the height constraint. So let the height constraint equals to ns layout constraint, and the item, same thing, will be self.image view. The attribute that will be affecting of the self.image view would be the height, because we want it to have the fixed height regardless of any screen size. Related by will be dot equal to item nil. Attribute, we don't want any other attribute, so that's fine. And multiply will be 1.0, and a constant will be 100. So now what this line of code does, it just keeps the height of the image view to 100 regardless. So both of these line of codes actually constrain the image such that the width and the height is 100 and 100 respectively, regardless of any screen size. Now that we have specified the size of the image view, we have to specify where will it be positioned in the view. So first we're going to say let the x constraint equals to ns layout constraint, and the item would be self.image view. Attribute would be, this time it's not width nor height, it's center x. So center x essentially just means that you will position this self.image view horizontally in the super view. So let's set this to equal to item nil. Attribute would be center x. Multiply would be 1.0, and constant would be 0. Oops, this shouldn't actually be new. Make sure you're heading back to your toItem parameter and change this not to nil, but want to set it to the self.view. So what this does is that it constrains the self.image view to align horizontally to the self.view regardless of the screen size. Now you're heading to make your y constraint equals to a ns layout constraint. The item in this case will be self.image view. Attribute will be center y. Make sure this is y. Related by equal to item with self.view. So now what this does is that it aligns the self.image view vertically in accordance to the view that, the super view that we have. And the attribute in this case will be center y again. Multiply will be 1.0, and the constant will be 0. Now that we have specified all these constraints, all we just have to do left is to activate these constraints by using ns layout constraint activate, and the constraints would be width, height, x, and the y constraint. Now if we run it again, as you can see, it's now positioned nicely horizontally and vertically in the view. This is true regardless of the screen size. I can try, for example, the iPhone SE, which is a smaller version of the iPhone 6s. As you can see, it's still aligned horizontally and vertically, and also has a width and height of 100 regardless of the screen size. Okay, so now that we are done specifying the constraints, I'm going to change this back into the iPhone 6s, and let's move on. So now that we have added the image view, now let's add the gesture recognizers, which will allow us to change the various properties of the image view. So first we need to have a rotate gesture equals to a UI rotate gesture recognizer, rotation gesture recognizer. The target will be self. Selector, we will deal with that in a later moment. Body pen gesture equals to UI pen gesture recognizer. The target will be self. Action, we'll deal with that later. And var pinch gesture equals to UI pinch gesture recognizer. Target, set it to self again. Selector will do that later. So the reason why I said you guys to not do the selector for now is that we need to create the corresponding functions that will allow us to pull in here as a selector. So first we have a rotate, and make sure in the parameters you need to add a gesture. Then this will be UI rotation gesture recognizer. This will be func pen gesture UI gesture recognizer. UI pen gesture recognizer. And last but not least, you want to have a pinch gesture, but this will be, you guessed it, UI pinch gesture recognizer. Let me just add a spacing just to keep things uniform. And now in the selector, what you can do is to add a hash selector view controller dot rotate. Okay, I'm just going to copy this over here and change this to pan, change this to pinch. So now that we have configured the UI pen gesture, UI pinch gesture, and the UI rotation gesture, okay, so now what I'm going to do is to put them all of these gestures into an array. So var gestures equals to rotate gesture, pan gesture, and the pinch gesture. Now, I'm having an error over here. Let me just check it. And heterogeneous collection could only be inferred to. Oh, okay. So what I'm going to do is to actually specify this of a type UI gesture recognizer. So now we wouldn't have that error because now that we have specified the type of it. So the reason why all of these, despite of different classes, can fit into one array is because all of these are inherited from the UI gesture recognizer class. You can check for yourself, just command and click, and you can see this inherits from the UI gesture recognizer. The rotation also inherits. Same for the pen. Why did I create an array that actually just put all of them in a row? Why do I do that? It's because I can do a for loop with it. So for gesture in gestures, I can say self dot view dot add gesture recognizer, and in this case be gesture. Boom. So now all of them get added at once, and I don't have to add just line of code 3 times for each different gesture. Okay, so now that we're done adding all these gestures, it's giving me an error. Okay, let's change all of this to let. Okay, so in the rotate, what I want to do is to if let rotate, if let the gesture view equals to the gesture dot view, then what we want to do is we want to set the gesture view dot transform equals to cg-affine transform dot init, and this is the rotate, so we want to do something with the rotation angle, and the rotation angle will be gesture dot rotation. For the pan, it would be first we need to get the translation, so var translation equals to gesture dot translation, and the view, what view? And the self dot view. If let the gesture view equals to gesture view, the reason why we're using an if let is because we want to check whether the user has used this gesture recognizer, and if he has, it will run this block of code within these two curly braces. Gesture view dot center is equal to CG point, and in this case the X would be gesture view dot center dot X plus the translation dot center translation dot X. So for this, it will be gesture view dot Y plus the translation dot Y. So by the way, it's raining right now, so you may hear a little bit of pitter patter, but that's fine, I believe. Okay, so I forgot to add a dot center in this case, which I'm going to add now. Okay, so now that we've added all of these, what's left is the pinch. But before that, I need to set the translation, okay, is set equal to the cg point dot 0, such that this translation doesn't add up. Okay, last but not least, we have the pinch gesture, and in this case, what we're gonna do is if let the gesture view equals to the gesture dot view, then what we're gonna do is to gesture view dot transform equals to cg-affine transform dot init by the scale, because when the user's pinch, we want to affect the scale, and the scale of this would be the gesture dot scale, and this will be gesture dot scale as well. Okay, so now that we're done, let's see how this fares. Let's build around it and see how it goes. Drag it around. Oh, okay, moves the whole view, and I think I know what's the problem. It's because of this, because we added to the view. So now, whenever we call all these three functions, it will affect the super view, not the image view. Let's change this to image view, and as you can see one advantage of using this for loop is because we don't have to actually change it multiple times. And if we were to actually add this tree manually, we have to change each and every single of them, which would be extremely inefficient. Okay, let's try it now. So as you can see, it moves all the way. Okay, so I think now I know what's the error. The error is that we're supposed to change the gesture dot set translation, and the translation want to set the translation cg point dot 0, in the view the self dot view. So now when we do that, it will not be flying around, so that whenever the pen is done, we set it back to 0. Okay, there we have it. Now to simulate pinch and rotate, what you need to do is to hold down Alt, and you have these two keys, and then press on the image, and as you can see, you can scale them accordingly. So I'm not really sure how you can rotate it. It's actually quite difficult for me to rotate. So I actually recommend you to actually run this application on a real device to actually simulate rotation. Oh, there you have it. We have a rotation over here. So you can see rotation works. I'm not sure how I did it as well, but you can try to experiment and hope for the best. Okay, it's actually quite difficult to simulate it again. Oh, there you have it. Okay, so it's actually quite simple to add gesture recognizers to your application. Congratulations for making it to the end of this video tutorial. And this is Ben. Peace out.